Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We have John Reighard on the line. He's founder and CEO over at MomentumNow. And let me tell you, I've been waiting for this episode for a while. John and I have had multiple conversations in the past talking about faith, business, how they relate. He's also big in the investing side of things, and we'll get into that in a moment. Things like Angels Investors Network and a lot of representation, a lot of different angles. Man that wears multiple hats, and they're all pretty dang interesting. So, John, first off, welcome to the show.
Very good to be here. Thank you.
All right, John. So we got a lot to cover today, but before we get into the episode, let's start this the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So, John, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, for executives, for experts. That's what we do. John, what mission matters to you?
Overall, in general, it's about empowering other people, whether it's in nonprofits or for-profit businesses or just friends. If there's something that I can do to help them feel more empowered, I'm happy. It's been, a lot of years in business where I saw everybody competing in Silicon Valley, and it was pretty brutal, when I first started. But I still saw through that how everybody that was doing the best was looking after each other. And I've tried to do that same thing throughout my career.
Awesome. Love bringing mission-based individuals on here to share why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and really how we can all learn from that so we grow together. So great having you on. And John, just to get us kicked off here, I'm curious. So let's go further back in time. We can get into the Silicon Valley stuff, but how'd you get into business in general? When we were young, would we have been friends? What would have been our business? How'd you get started?
Probably go-karts. We'd be selling go-karts going down the hill nearby the house where I lived at in Madison, Wisconsin. Took a couple crashes on that, by the way, which you got test driving. But it would have been selling go-karts when we were, 10, 12. My friend and I, David, did that, and we just had a really bad crash. Mm-hmm. He looked at me and go, "What did we do that for?" I go, "Well, we had to try it, but we didn't know what was going to happen." Right. But, beyond that, I think, Adam, you and I would get into a lot of businesses, and I hope we do.
What, did you know, even back then, did you, and I'm from the Midwest too, my long-term listeners know that I'm from Michigan. So when I was growing up, it was just kids, we were just trying to make some money, do some things, be productive. I didn't know the word entrepreneur, that was for certain, or being in business. I was just trying to, add some value, make some money. For you, when did you know that business or this entrepreneur side of things, when did you know that was going to be a thing for you?
Well, it really became a thing when my mom had died, and and I lived with my close friend for the last year of high school, and a man showed up that I knew to some degree, and he was a close friend later on, and Sheldon Wilcox, now passed away a long time ago. Mm-hmm. He came and he wrote me a business plan. I'm 17. Wow. And I'm sitting there. I thought he'd come to say hi to me, but he actually got out his pad and he started to invest in me. That's what I call it. He put time and effort. Here's a man who had a big enterprise in Milwaukee, and down the road, and he still decided he'd do this. Now, he knew our family to some degree, and my sister was really good friends with his daughter, and yet he didn't need to do this. He did it anyway. He came back 2 weeks later with this binder of what it is he wanted to illustrate based on what my goals were. At that time, I didn't know what my goals were. I was still thinking about
17. You're 17 when this is happening.
Yeah, 16 and a half, 17. Wow. And I was getting ready to go to college, and I didn't really know what I was going to declare for. There were signs. My father was at the University of Wisconsin, and I probably would go in similar ways that he did. But he took the time. He said, "John, here's what I wrote up." So he wrote up, marketing something I think that you like because of what you said. He said, "I think business is definitely the right place to go." And what's fun, I'll just shorten it up a little bit. But he Came back with that, and of course, that's what I went and got a degree in at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and it's helped me so much to get the business behind me and all the details. Then in my last year, I came back and I was an intern at his business 4 years later. So, that's an angel. So we talk today about spirit in business and God in business and things like angels. So he's one of them.
And so when you left college, did you immediately go into entrepreneurship or like starting or businesses or like what was that like for you? Did you get a corporate job? Like what happened next?
I did. I was fortunate enough to be recruited out of college and had a 6-month training program for a company called Brady Corporation in Milwaukee. It was the one I wanted. They're high quality. They did markers and on the sign, out there on the road, but one division, another division did things for like PC boards. And I was very happy with that because of the training program. Then they decided they're going to, either send us, the three of us, in one of 3 directions, and there were 3 cities, and one of them was San Francisco. And the reason I got that one is because I love to ski. They said, John, because you like to ski, you're going to go to the Silicon Valley. I said, okay. Who knew who knew that I'd become an award-winning manager there because of the fact that it's a massively growing place.
Roughly what year was this? Just roughly.
1986.
Wow. So describe the Valley when you got there, because this is a good milestone for the youngins listening. Describe what it was like there versus, and you don't have to go into now, but there, like when you got there.
No problem. Yeah, I remember coming there and I'm getting to know everybody. And quite a few people, I'd say 3 out of 5 people would tell me, well, John, everything's going to China now. Everything's being moved over there. You may not have a job here very long. I said, all right, it seems pretty busy. Everybody's moving around here. It seems pretty good. But they were all very concerned about it. If you think about it, look back in the news back in the mid-'80s, it was that whole thing of everybody was outsourcing to China. And yet, the one thing we have here, John, is that Palo Alto is the center of the growth. It's always going to be venture capital center. And I said, okay, well, maybe I should become a venture capitalist. But the bottom line is I had a great career. And there was plenty of business for me to do over the years and into the 90s. And I can say more about those particular experiences. But I was blessed. I'll talk a little bit today about the communities I was around, because I think empowering people
get into that because that's a good one. So you entered in this community. There's a little bit of fear there, China, all these other things. Like talk about like how that community side developed.
Well, the community side was I either worked or I worked out at that point. I wasn't married, and so my community was my workplace, and yet I had really excellent mentors who showed me what a community looks like and how you look out for each other. And, this whole notion of a culture. I thought a culture, isn't it the American culture? Doesn't everybody have that in their business too? No, a business has to have its own culture also. And it has become my favorite thing to teach, my favorite topic to put in place with all the private equity companies I work with. It's mandatory when I invest in people in their businesses, because I know what it felt like to be in that community. So, every Monday morning at Octel Communications during the late 80s and 90s, I would come over and I would watch. I'd sit there every single Monday morning to listen to them go over the 22 core values at Octel Communications. My favorite manager there, Mike West, was also the sales leader, which is I was in his organization. He was great at this sort of thing. And I modeled my a lot of what I do after Mike, and how he came across, because he cared, and it was really, really good to be around him. And he went through every one of those, and he'd give examples, and that would set the foundation for that group of new people. And we had a culture to be loved. And from there, I just kept going. And fortunately, I chose other good cultures. But Lucent Technologies bought Octel at one point, and that was 31,000 people versus 4. And I went, this culture may be great, but it's too big for me. I want to be a part of something here. And so that was a change for me. I didn't get to know Lucent If you all look up Lucid, it's a big company back then. AT&T and Lucid split up, and then I went to Exodus Communications, which is really where I had the most opportunity to be a part of a public company as it grew. And I was right there before it went public, and we had a similar great mission, a similar great culture. So, and because of that, we had, I'll just say this statistic because it's still true, 38 quarter by quarter growth, 38 quarters in a row. And it's still a record on NASDAQ for Exodus Communications. And I have to say it was because of our culture again. See, growth doesn't happen, everybody, from just, I'm going to put these core values up on the wall, and I'm gonna once in a while talk about it. It has to be talked about all the time. All the managers all have to embody it. And we did. And so that's why we did so well. And it just blew up the whole data center world. There weren't data centers that were co-locating people into their data centers. Yeah. It just wasn't around. So we had to reinvent that, the way people did things. .com. Anybody remember the .com world? So anyway, give me a few experiences there. Is that what you wanted?
And when did you decide? I'm curious. So you're working your way up through corporate. You're in Silicon Valley. At what point did you start? Like, what was that first experience when you kind of went out on your own, or took that leap? When did that happen? I'm curious.
Well, it happened after Exodus faltered, because of the .coms. And before it happened, I was already out of there and had the fortune of having stock and really good opportunity. I was just getting married, and then our baby came. And as I was watching things go down and it slow down, I really thought, well, it's time to transition. My wife is from Norway, so we decided to move to Norway and see if we'd want to live there. Well, that didn't work for her, first of all, because she's got back there and goes, no way. And I said, oh, that's good, because there's only 4 million people here. I need a little more than that to work with. But it's beautiful there. But the point is, that was a transition. But the real thing I have to say to everybody on this right now is that I was looking out for the whole culture, but I wasn't looking out for my health or my spirit. And I was worn out. My adrenal glands were off the charts. Here at 38, at the prime of my life, and I really needed some rest. And that's it in Norway. But that was the transition. It wasn't what you thought you were going to hear there. But and then I came back after that, and I got into coaching, which is natural for me, but not perfect, because I like it when people listen, and I wasn't giving them money when I first started to coach, and they didn't listen as well to their own thoughts about what they wanted to do, and that's hard. The culture was terrible. And I had this really bad attitude at times, like, gosh, I got to go back to corporate America. I can't live in the wine country where I want to live with my family, and get back into these big cultures. And how would I do that? Would I take care of my own health this time around? And so I decided to just keep going where I was. And then my wife and I would invest in some things. And then over time, it's been 20 years. I created the private equity process and angel investing process, and there's companies around both of them. And I've been around helping people find capital to build their businesses, which is really what those people that weren't listening to me needed. And then now they listen when I bring them money. So that's that little. I don't know if that helps you, Adam.
Yeah, go further into that side of the business. Like, when did you like that thought where you're like, okay, what they need resources, money, right? Angel or private equity, whatever form. But you're like, okay, because that's a very specific decision when you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to help them with this particular issue. Like, what drove that, and like how do you know that was going to be your thing? Because that's what I know you as, by the way. So I'm curious about that.
It became my thing because it was a dire need. And it became my thing because of what I knew from coaching, that it didn't work for me to just be coaching folks who said they were under contract to be coached. Because when I said, okay, well, they say to me, well, sometimes I go, do you have some money you want to put in? And I would put that in, and that changed the relationship. It wasn't me that changed, but it changed for them. And so I got to the point where I went, well, I really want to help businesses, because to me, in America, the number one best thing about business in our nation are small business owners.
Yeah.
We have a lot more of them that have 1 million to 25 million in sales per year than we have these huge companies we all read about, like Meta and all these sort of things. Very small percentage for the big guys. And so the small businesses, I knew I wanted to invest, like my father did. In the University of Wisconsin, he was in an extension program. He'd go out to the Wisconsin businesses and help them. And I somehow I knew that was part of what he did, even though it was pretty small. And I just wanted to do more of that. I wanted to contribute. It's fun for me to contribute and work on their culture with them and get them going and help them to hire. Honestly, one of my favorite things besides talking about mission is to help people hire. Because you can really do the right thing when you get the right person in the role, but there's a certain way I went about it. I had to learn the hard way, but that became a big part of success for me, and why I had championship teams time after time is because I chose the right people. But that's basically how I got into the money part.
So let's bring that piece of it maybe present day a bit. So I know Angel Capital Network and the private equity side. Like, talk about what you're doing today with founders and with businesses.
Yeah, it's I'm getting to know people at mastermind meetings, like where I met you, Adam, and if I bring up private equity, 1 out of 3 times I know somebody, or I could use some help. It's not a difficult. Talk about an opener. If I would, like that, it's not hard. But I do have a lot of institutional capital behind my own, a lot more than my own, and my teammate, and we have the ability to help in great strides. Because we don't believe in starting small and playing small. We won't invest in that opportunity. We invest in the ones that have the bones to be big, and we'll help them scale. Because that's the hardest part. People blow their money because they don't know how to scale. And I can talk all day long on that topic, maybe another podcast. But that's really where my focus is with the private equity. I also am a part owner in a brokerage, which is for currency trading. Forex, people know it as, metals trading, poly, sports betting, all these things. So we have that, and that's been growing also. I didn't talk about it much with you, Adam, but it's a lot easier to do that, by the way. If I want to save my adrenal glands this time around, I'll probably need to let that business.
You're in it with the founders. I already know. And speaking of the founders and businesses, like what are you looking for when you're looking at committing capital? Is there particular industries you focus on versus others? Is it the deal? Is it the founder, the manager? Like what are you looking for in general?
In general, U.S. infrastructure. Now, people think I mean energy and data centers, and I do. But our focus, Todd and I, is to focus on people first. We're investing in rural hospitals. People think that we have enough hospitals and care in this nation. Some of our biggest states, like Michigan and New York, they have a lot of rural areas. And that from being from Michigan. And where do they get their help? They got to go all the way to Detroit? No, we can't have that. So we just invested in going to be 80 small hospitals, 10 beds, all the scanning equipment people need, and that's started in Arkansas. Now, the part of where, Walmart as their headquarters, they got enough hospitals there, but the other part of the state has nothing. So that's just an example. So the infrastructure is humans. Data centers, of course, by my background, we invest in that. Because I know them well. Energy. There's one company I just love. I won't go into the name, but they're taking care of plastic and turning it into fuel. They finally have figured out how to do that. And they're going to need 11,000 facilities at all cost of $30 million, and we're going to help them over time. It'll take a while. I think we're going to try to get 100 of them done now, but the bottom line is it's very fulfilling to have America first and to make sure that we are getting the help we want here. So that's what we're doing with that part of the business.
Yeah. So when you think about like, and we've had some of these discussions, like when you think about like God, spirituality, like how does all of that fit into business for you?
Yeah. It's a very important topic to me. I have a relationship with God now that I never really had until about 2015. And since then it's been very strong. And so I now I can say the word God, and I'm glad we're using that word here, because I normally wouldn't have done that. I would have said spirit.
Oh,
Said,
I was going to say, what other word do we say? I didn't even know it, John. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, the spirit. No, I used to
Threw
say
me for a second. Go, please.
Oh, well, a lot of times I'll say, hey, how about love, which is God? And
I see.
I would use other words that would get to it, but it wasn't it.
I understand.
And so thanks for having an opportunity on this, in this recording to say that. It's touching my heart, because, the bottom line is we all believe in something that's bigger than us. I hope so. I hope everybody has that, whatever it is, however you do it. When I go to Al-Anon, which is another area I learn a lot with the 12-step program, and that's for people that have been around people that drank too much in their past. And I still go there because there's principles there. And one of them is that God's involved with the first principle and the second. And it's good. It's good to have something bigger than us. That's what I didn't have when I was, running myself down. And when I was 38 and I was out of energy, I thought I only had me. I only had this cell, this battery cell. Yeah. And I got unlimited up. I got unlimited. And now I that's the way that I'll never get back to, being so low in my adrenal glands from working too hard. Because most of the time I'll say, well, God, I can't solve this by myself. How are you going to help me?
Can I get a refill?
Yeah. I get a refill. Can you, I'm going to turn this over to you. This issue. And, for me, that, this wasn't my thinking years ago.
And the philanthropy part of this, I know we talked a bunch about business so far, but the philanthropy part of it, like that's also part of what makes you, in my opinion, successful, right?
It is. I mean, it's my favorite day of the week. I go over most Fridays to be, the Redwood Gospel Mission here in Sonoma County. And I'm looking into other things with people I've met in your mastermind, Adam, that we're going to be getting involved with cancer, which is near and dear to my heart. My mom died of that when she was 58. Come on.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I go to Redwood Gospel Missions, which is for the homeless in Sonoma County and beyond, a little further. And I have the opportunity to help the executives who run the 92-person organization. There's about 12 of them. And I get a chance to coach them. I also go to the soup kitchen on Thanksgiving when we give 5,000 meals out. And tell you what, that's a good feeling. We got to give back. We got to be willing to help others. And it just, for me, it's so fulfilling. I really mean that when I go there on Fridays, I get more. They say, thanks for helping me, John. I go, no, thank you. You just helped me. Because I had a chance to give. So, that's the philanthropy, along with, the cancer that I'm going to be working on with one of my teammates in a Mission Matters, actually. And I'll keep looking for that. I'm just a little too busy to do it full time right now, but I see myself doing that full time in 10 years for sure. So
amazing. John, this has been great having you on today. You did not disappoint. I love whenever we can talk about, building connections, like your Silicon Valley, to talk about in the 80s, early 80s. Like that's a timestamp in history. I love this.
That's called gray hair there, Adam.
No, that's fun. I got to ask, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for all your endeavors? You got a lot going on. What's next?
Give back anywhere I can. Every day. That's it.
Amazing. How do people follow up? How do they connect? And how do they keep the conversation going?
It would be best on LinkedIn, because I have multiple businesses. So I think I'm unique because of my middle initial, the John Reighard, and that's Reighard. And then just send me a message there and say hi. And we'll go from there.
And for everybody watching, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can click on the links and head right on over and connect with John. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. And John, man, been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, Adam.